it is not bad news that Brock Purdy just played his worst game for the 49ers. It's good news.
Right.
Why? Because they won. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't the cleanest game the Niners have played. Play the game back a lot of times. Cowboys win some of them. Niners have better performances. Like, absolutely, they're lacking in the style points column. But here's the thing about the NFL playoffs. You don't advance on style points. You advance on win-loss, and they won that game. They won it handing off to Christian McCaffrey, handing off to Elijah Mitchell, who's their backup running back, despite the fact that he's a really good running back and has been a really good running back. And they don't need to worry too much about their depth at running back, because when McCaffrey gets banged up, they can just go Elijah Mitchell. And Kyle got back in his run game bag there in the second half, right there. Getting double teams going, and they got these tight surfaces, and they're doing good work of getting vertical runs and inching their way down the field. They get a field goal, they get a touchdown, they salt the game away. 8-minute drive to end the fourth quarter, right? Defensively, I mean, D'Amico is just as good as it gets at doing his stuff. They are an impossibly well-coached unit. They're terrifying. They're great tacklers. They're super physical, gnarly pass rush, and then they get you into a third down, and they can send these pressure packages at you that are just a total nightmare to deal with. But we all have eyes. So what's the elephant in the room? It's Brock Purdy, right? It's Brock who tried to throw 2 interceptions against the Seahawks, and they both got dropped. It's Brock who was under pressure on 45% of his dropbacks against the Cowboys. Brock who he had the largest ADOT of a game in his career in this particular game. He had an EPA per dropback of 0.08, which is the worst game he's played since the Dolphins game this season, right? This was his worst game. He had to throw the ball down the field. He's getting pressured a ton. He's getting hassled. Low completion percentage. Brock looked bad. But what did we all talk about before the postseason? We said, will the bad Brock game kill the Niners? When they eventually run to a defense that can stop them, and they can't get the yards after the catch, and they can't get the easy running game, and they can't get the easy throws, and Brock will be bad, and Brock will make mistakes, and he'll be inaccurate. Won't it kill him? Like, this is the thing they have to worry about. I'm telling you, it just happened. Like, there's a chance it happens again. There's a chance he plays worse. But Brock was not good, bad, against an extremely good, very dangerous, like you said, best 6 teams are left, Cowboys team. And they beat him by 7. They beat him by 7, and they took the lead in the second quarter and didn't give it back. Controlled the game, right? And this is the thing about the Niners that's so terrifying. So the reason why, we talked about this a lot in the Philly Special Pod. I've been scared of the Niners beating the Eagles all year. I think the Niners can beat the Chiefs. I think they can beat the Bengals. I think they can beat everybody left. And it's because we just saw the bad Brock game, and they got by. And it is off of the 7 games we've seen him play previous, off of the years we've seen Kyle Shanahan coach in the playoffs. It is way more likely the next Brock game against the Eagles is better than this game was against the Cowboys. And outside of Brock, you still have Debo, and you have Kittle, who made the incredible catches, multiple great catches moving down the field. You still have McCaffrey, you still have Mitchell, you still have Ayuk, and you still have that defense. Such that, like, the Niners proved to me that they could beat a team that I believe was a legitimate Super Bowl contender in the Cowboys with a bad Brock game. So, like, there's this temptation to be like, oh, Brock looked a little shaky against the Seahawks. He looked even worse against the Cowboys. He's going to kill him. I don't know he is. I think he could still be bad, and they might just keep on winning football games all the way home, man.
I really wish I could come on here and just fire off a strong take about Purdy. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. I watch him, and I understand what you're saying. All right, that was his worst game. But typically when we think of worst game for, or bad game for a rookie quarterback, it's going to look a lot worse than that, just in terms of the negative plays that actually happen. Like, you're saying, yeah, all right, they're dropped interception here and there. But when you look at a box score and you say rookie named whoever had a bad game, you're typically not seeing took 2 sacks, 0 interceptions, 0 fumbles, 19 for 29, 214 yards. You're like, well, that seems like that's an average game. That's not like a terrible game. And also, I would say his predecessor, when we were talking about Jimmy Garoppolo having a bad game, I mean, it looked a lot worse than I think. I don't know if you agree or disagree with this. In my head, it is something that looked a lot worse than what we saw from Purdy on Sunday against the Cowboys. So yeah, I absolutely hear what you're saying, and I'm wondering, is that game coming? I mean, this is a wide, the sample is getting larger and larger here. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they're just silly. Like their offense, now Football Outsiders has the DVOA filter where you can do it by week. If you just check off all the weeks that he started, they have the best offense in the NFL over that stretch. And so it goes back to the thought I would always have with Garoppolo. Is Jimmy Garoppolo a top 5 quarterback? No. Can the 49ers have a top 5 offense with Jimmy Garoppolo? Yes. And so it's similar to that, but then there's this like massive uncertainty because we don't have a large sample. I will give him credit. He seems more poised. He doesn't seem to get rattled. He doesn't seem to tank under those bad plays. Now we had the bad one right before halftime. Like even that one, like that would be one where we could be pointing to right now. Still got that 1 second left on the clock to kick the field goal there. So he's narrowly escaping in some of these spots. And then in other spots, he's making really nice plays. I mean, they're working the middle of the field. It felt like there were stretches. There were third down in that game where you're like, come on, the Cowboys, you know what's coming. It's going to be something in between. It's going to be right there. Put some bodies there. And he's still completing passes. He's still letting the guys around him do their job and the offensive line and not getting shook to the point where he's making that game-changing mistake. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to come either. We will see this weekend. He's going on the road against a team that I think, certainly has as good of a pass rush. I think a better pass rush, the best sack rate in the NFL. In the Eagles, to me, that's probably the type of game where if he's going to get rattled, it would be a game where his offensive line is just losing. And when he's holding the ball or making those second reaction plays, I mean, when he makes a second reaction play, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like my mind is usually telling me this is going to end up in disaster. And sometimes it ends up in a really bad play. Other times, like the Kittle play, he ends up making a play. So I don't know what to think. Again, I'm all over the place just blabbering because I don't really know what to make of this guy at this point or be able to predict what he's going to do.
So I hear you on, we haven't yet seen him have a game in which he's going to make multiple backbreaking plays, multiple backbreaking interceptions, and just like totally like, it's like a complete dumpster fire game. I'm comfortable saying at this point that I don't think that's going to happen. And a lot of people have said like, if people just catch the picks that Brock Purdy throws at them, like you're going to be fine against this team. And it's half true, but at the same time, like,
I think it's a little overstated.
Yeah. This Cowboys game, the only like pick that was dropped was a ball that was batted off of Anthony Barr.
100%. Like, I think people are going way too far with that.
Yeah.
I always had the same thought earlier today when because you're hearing that get thrown around a lot. It's like there are some, but most games a quarterback has, one or two or whatever. But sorry, go ahead.
Right. And then like Seahawks Niners, right? People brought up like he had 2 in that game that should have been intercepted, where on both of them, he expected the Seahawks to flood the coverage strong side, and they flooded it weak side. And he went to throw one of these weak side slants that like the Niners love this weak side slant stuff because they just expect all of their guys, no matter who's lined up there, to win the one-on-one matchup, right? So 2 times he throws this weak side slant, this weak side bang 8, and the linebacker's right underneath it, and both times the Seahawks don't pick it off. It's like, if the Seahawks would just pick it off. I got news for you. The Seahawks lost that game by 18 points, Chief.
Right.
The Niners ended up with 41. Like, if the Seahawks could have stolen a possession, it certainly would have helped. And I think the Niners had them generally dialed up, though. And lest we forget, Geno is driving down the field, right? It's still like a 2-score game. I think it was a 3-score game, actually. But it's still like, all right, there's a snowball's chance in hell for this one. And the Niners get a strip sack. Yeah, you could get some more turnovers on Purdy. Absolutely can. You know who's really good at getting turnovers back? This D'Amico Ryan's defense, right? So I don't like this absolute pit game, this crater game. I'm certain it exists in the sense that like it exists for all quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? Like in the sense that like you could like a guy can always just like spiral and fall apart and like have just like 2 or 3 of the worst plays of his life in the worst possible moment, right? Like Dak, that interception in the red zone, one of the worst plays of his life, one of the worst possible moments, and boom, there you go. I think it's always possible, but I don't think with Purdy it's as simple as like, if you just catch the picks, like they got him. And you brought up the second reaction throws. Like the fact that Purdy's doing that and is like, I would say generally a positive more than a negative on the second reaction throws. He understands when to throw the ball away. He's actually done a great job of like avoiding a pressure and then realizing, oh shoot, ball's just got to come out. Like a lot of rookies would eat that, take a sack, try to throw that inbounds. He just kind of chucks it. Like done a great job with throwaways. He's done a nice job finding receivers outside of structure. Like the fact that he's bringing second reaction throws, which Jimmy really didn't bring, to an offense that doesn't need the quarterback to do anything in the first reaction plays, but just point and shoot. Like, my overarching take is like the Niners offense is more high floor than we realized with Purdy. I don't think the Purdy meltdown is going to come. I don't see how it does with how the kid gloves that this offense gets. Like you said, right? Like I was like, oh, it was a bad Purdy game. And then you told me the numbers, 19 for 29, 200 yards. It's like, holy smokes, the kid was as bad as what I just watched. I watched the game right before this pod and they did that. Yeah. Like it's just, it's going to be hard to really have a bad offensive performance from this Niners offense. Like worse than the one we saw against the Cowboys, I'd be shocked. The Cowboys played them so well. Cowboys held them to 19 yards and 19 points. And that was with Kyle punting the ball multiple times past midfield.
Well, that
them
you can
attempting
count
a
on
field
in a
goal on
playoff
4th
game.
and 2, you know? So I think this theory that Purdy's going to fall apart, I just don't see it happening. If it does happen, like in, you know, the violence of Lincoln Financial Field, I'll look like an idiot and I get it, but I don't think it will.
The quarterback storylines going into this weekend are juicy, man. Like there's, I feel like there's more sort of unknown or uncertainty than we're used to. Usually you have the familiar faces, and now it's like, is Purdy going to keep doing this? Are they just going to win 14 in a row and win the Super Bowl? Is he going to go on the road and have a good game? Is Jalen Hurts going to get to the Super Bowl a year after the Eagles were pretty much like, let's just set ourselves up to get a quarterback next year? Is Patrick Mahomes on one ankle going to be able to get back to the Super Bowl? Is Joe Burrow going to win his first title at 26 years old? There are a lot of good
Kyle
ones.
Shanahan's going to win a Super Bowl, but this poor young man, by the way, who just like always looks so tired on the sideline, really want him to win one. Just get the monkey off your back. If he's going to win one, it is only appropriate that he wins with a 7th round Mr. Irrelevant rookie quarterback. That's the only way Kyle Shanahan, with what he's done to raise the floor of quarterbacking in this era of football, it has to be with Brock. I don't want to see it with Trey. It's got to be with a guy like Brock.
You know what? That happens in sports like a lot of time. You know, like the Red Sox, it was like, all right, if they're going to win one, it's going to be coming back from a 3-1 deficit. The Eagles, if they're going to win one, it's going to be with this backup quarterback with the rest of his career after that is not going to do anything. So maybe you're right there. Maybe it's, if they do win one, we'll look back and be like, yeah, it was meant to be. They trade all those picks for Trey Lance. They get Jimmy Garoppolo and they end up winning it with Brock Purdy. All right.